What's going on, saviors? GH here. Today the build that we're gonna look at, it's Hoplite, Dragoon, and Lancer. And it's currently the third most popular build in the game, but I think after I make this video, this build could reach the second place. Anyways, what we're gonna do is show each classes, what they do, and tell you guys the reason why each of these classes are here in this build, then the good and the bad, and some closing remarks to finish up the video. And with that said, here is Hoplite, Dragoon, and Lancer. Let's do this! Okay, here's the build. We got the Hoplite, Lancer, and Dragoon. We're gonna start with Hoplite. Now, Hoplites use spears with a long attack range, and they gain a bonus when fighting larger and boss type enemies. And they specialize on increasing critical hit damage and crit rate. And the reason this class is here is because of damage increase with the use of its critical rate and final damage buff. Let's check out the skills. First off is Sharp Spear. This increases your final damage when critical hit occurs if you're using spears. Max this out and always keep it up. Second skill is Finestra. This is another critical buff that increases your critical rate if you're using spears, both one hand and two hands. This is another important buff. Use it at all times. Those two skills are the reason you're taking Hoplite, but of course, Hoplite has a variety of offensive abilities that you can use to deal damage, like Spear Lunge. This is an attack that deals damage, ignores enemy defense, and debuffs the target, which increases damage of spear type attacks for 6 seconds. Look at this. My normal attack deals about 15k give or take. Then when I debuff the monster with Spear Lunge, my normal attack deals about 21k damage. So that's a huge boost. So always start up with this skill, then follow up with your high skill factor skills. Next offensive attack is Spears. This is a spear type attack that deals more hits the bigger the enemy is. More specifically, 3 hits to larger targets and 4 hits to boss type monsters. And if you're wearing Dragoon Helmet or using the Initiate buff, you will get an additional hit. We're gonna talk about those two buffs later. Then we have Stabbing, moderate damage, very low cooldown, and that's Hoplite, a pretty good source of damage increasing buffs for spear type classes. And now let's head on to Lancer. Now, Lancers are mounted units that are highly effective in player versus player combat. They also have the ability to destroy magic circles and inflict massive damage against few enemies and single target enemies. And the reason this class is here is because aside from PvP utilities, it's also a class that can deal insane damage against single target enemies with the use of its skills. First off is Crush. This is an attack that deals damage, inflicts Crush debuff, and also instantly removes shield buffs. This is a very important skill because the Crush debuff works with the next skill, and it's called Quintain. This is another spear attack that hits one time, but there's an attribute for this that increases the number of hits to 4 if the enemy is under the Crush debuff. So using Crush first, then Quintain is a must. Then there's a Vibora weapon for this that uses Quintain at the current level when Crush is used. So get it if you can. Next skill is Rongomiant. This is a dashing forward attack that cannot be blocked or avoided. This also stuns for 2 seconds, and there's an art for this that gives it a debuff effect that when enemies are hit with Rongomiant, they are inflicted with the dual debuff for 20 seconds. And enemies under this debuff takes 50% more damage from other participants of the duel and 25% less damage from other targets. Then what else? Lastly, we have Joust and Unhorsing. Unhorsing is used to unmount enemies in PvP, and Joust is a mobility skill that can be used to destroy magic circles. Here's an example. And that's Lancer, an awesome spear type class that's good in almost everything. And now for the last class, Dragoon. This is my favorite class in the Swordsman class tree, and I'm glad it got the most needed update to its skills. Now, Dragoon is a class in Final Fantasy that's for some reason it's also in this game. I don't know, don't ask. They are most effective when using two-handed spears, and the reason this class is here is because it's another spear type class that can increase overall damage of spear type attacks. Now the first skill is called Dragoon Helmet. This is a buff that increases damage of skills using spears. Wear this at all times when you're sleeping, when you're pooping, and when you're wreaking havoc in the battlefield. Next skill is Dragoon Fear. This is another buff that increases your damage and AoE attack ratio, and this also debuffs enemies, making them slower and receive 20% more damage from melee physical attack. Use this in the beginning of your onslaught. Next skill is Geibel and Dragon Fall. Both are excellent attacks skill factor wise, and both hits twice on slowed and immobile enemies. Luckily you have an attack that can immobilize enemies, which is called Death Throne, a long range spear attack that immobilizes enemies. And then what else? We have Dragon Tooth, a spear type attack that ignores enemy defense, a very nice skill. And that's Dragoon, another good source of buffs that increases spear type damage and excellent spear type attacks. And that's the build, a superb combination of classes that are certainly viable in the endgame content. And now let's do the good and the bad. Let's start with the bad. This build is not great for mobbing, and you will find it slightly annoying to use when dealing with multiple targets. Another thing is you don't have a reliable iframe in here. And also there are skills in here with 1 minute duration and 1 minute cooldown. Yeah, it's here. It's fluffing annoying. Why not make it 30 minutes? As if like, if they do 1 minute duration and 1 minute cooldown, you're a very skillful player. No, you're not. It's just annoying. Just make it 30 minutes and make the game less tedious. So yeah, there's those bullcrap in here. Anyway, let's do the good stuff. I can definitely say for sure that this build is ferociously good for boss fighting. If you're a swordsman looking for a boss fighting build, this is an excellent choice. And aside from PvE, it's also good in PvP, albeit you might want to change the class build to suit the PvP situations much better. Lastly this is an alternative to the BB Barb Top, which is getting so common that at times in challenge mode, the whole party is Blossom Blader with one healer. So yeah, it's a good thing that a proper alternative is existing. And that's the build. What do you think? Is this build big PP or small PP? Share your thoughts in the comment section down below. And as always, like it if you like the video, share, and then subscribe to be part of the Gaming Hardcore family. And as always, this is Gaming Hardcore. See you in the next one.